we got done with that, I had a lot of times, I thought, well, I'm gonna run down and see if I can get this tree. Good days,
Hey, Danny.
Mayor.
How are you, sir?
Fine.
I went out and met with Barbara Benz and
Okay.
some of the folks out at Sander Court today.
Okay.
I walked around out there and just talked with them about, you know, what we would try to maybe address it with the oil and chip program this fall or something. And obviously, you know, because of the rain, it wasn't that noticeable today, but when it does get hot, I think that oil is going to come through. And
Yeah, there's been hot days, where especially around that circle part.
Yeah. I almost wonder, and I think that circle part is the worst part of where the oil's going to be coming through. I almost wonder what it would cost to just asphalt that circle. You
That
know?
would definitely help.
Yeah,
It really would.
because that's where all those, you know, people turn around. It pushes that stuff just because, you know, it's what it does.
Hi, Mr. Bratton. All right, Mr. Food for thought. We limit the trash trucks in the alleys to the small vehicles. I think we could cut our oil and chip program in half at least. So basically, they are causing us to have to oil and chip every 4 years.
Yeah.
It's the garbage trucks that's doing it.
Yeah.
We could take that money, fix other roads, or put blacktop down with the savings.
Yeah.
It's the big garbage trucks that are tearing them up,
And have a
they're
lot-
tearing the big curbs up. Hey, Cam, I was good until I saw you, now I'm better.
You here for the
Huh?
prayer,
Yeah.
Pastor Fry?
You want to let me pray this time?
I will, I promise. I've even got written down in big.
You got it.
A question mark.
Sometimes you gotta
Might be here.
That's okay. He was so involved in it last time I was around here. Just
Yeah.
that's fine. If it happens again,
No,
don't worry
no.
about it. Don't miss a beat. Just keep rolling.
If it happens again, you need to start wondering whether I got something against you or something. Goodness gracious.
You told me you didn't like him anyway.
Okay, you don't have to tell every secret.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
If you're upright, that's half the battle.
Yes, it is.
pretty nice shirt.
That old boy got killed out of the golf tournament the other day.
He's ready for you.
He just $3 for the concrete company down there.
That's $80.
Really.
According to the people like, according to tags,
Yeah.
never paid $80 for a shirt. I don't know if I ever paid $80 for a suit.
Thanks, Pastor.
I don't remember the last time.
How much do you in the
We ever get,
packet? I'll bring
Harold
it
ever
up.
get
They got
back
the
to us
deal
on
down
that?
this morning. We just gotta get some papers to do your paper.
He might have, but I don't
I'll
remember.
bring up Miss Kennedy is down to
I
13,000.
don't think he did.
She's gonna take that in.
We won't tonight, because Bill here, Harold is.
We're done with Mark, so then the paperwork being done. Tell me for property with
I tell you, I played twice last week.
Yeah.
Well, I played with Hollow Wednesday afternoon.
No.
Yeah, you told me you sucked.
Right.
Well, I played the next day. I didn't think I'd get any worse. Well, I can't. I was terrible. I had a 95.
Okay. Okay.
Very good. I didn't want to bring that.
I might have been able to tie you or beat you.
You want me to talk?
You would have probably beaten me.
about Phil?
We went out Monday
Yeah,
again,
yeah, 13 basketball.
and
Yeah.
I only played the 15th
I've
hole.
got
I got
his
a phone
number,
call. I had to get
and
some
I've got a
information.
list of our lots
Thank
too,
you.
so,
But
But see, I thought maybe.
I tell you what, I was putting really good.
yeah, because we got,
You know what? Putting good?
Wow,
yeah.
that's kind of what I thought.
What do we got going on here?
I have no idea.
Eric said that, over there on Division Street,
Somebody wants you.
the House for Humanity.
For free.
He told me that this morning too,
You know
yeah.
what I'm going?
Find out anything from Lawless's? Or do you ever
Yes,
call him back?
no, he did. And I talked to Russell today, and Smizer is going to pay for that landscaping up there this year, $5,200. So I told Lawless, I said, just get busy. And
It's a man shape.
Russell said, so he came in today and he said, yeah, he said they just haven't had a meeting yet. But I turned it in and they said they'd pay for it. So that's a great deal.
Then my wife won't have me up there pulling weeds.
Yeah, man.
That was the whole object of this thing.
Well, it's amazing, well, you know, physical labor will motivate a man.
Will me,
Get something done, me
as long
too.
as I don't have to do it.
Why do you think I'm in politics and radio?
I tell you what, my wife motivated me. I'm holding my front yard after the rain quit.
I could watch the grass grow in my yard today.
Man, it might just go wacko.
I tell you what, one of your people come by my house the other day thinking I was his alderman. I said, don't make a difference what he got. Paul Williams, you know Paul Williams? 16th and Gardside, lives right behind that house. Right behind who? 16th and Gardside, where all the yard ornaments are.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the
Him?
backyard of that thing.
Oh, I know it.
I told him,
He won't do anything about it. He ain't kidding. You know what? They ain't got anything done over on board since November.
Their money they give us will be added.
see if I can get a drink.
Hello, Edward.
Saw your dearly beloved.
And they said they would.
You must have been at Kamari. That's Mother's Day. We went Sunday to Cocapella. Granddaughter set the time up at 2 o'clock. That kills breakfast, that kills lunch, or supper. But,
Tell you, that's a fine place to eat, isn't it?
yes.
Is it? Yeah, I've never eaten there.
Their Sunday brunch is
I've never played
unbelievable.
golf.
I haven't either.
I played golf, well, I went there, I didn't play golf.
There's
Back when I could play, I played that, and it's rough. They got sand traps and everywhere I hit the ball.
They're taking about half those bunkers out, they said.
Yeah,
Have they?
Yeah.
it's a nice course.
Yeah, it was actually
They've
for
got
a
a
local place.
It's got a great Sunday brunch. Great. The food's good.
My problem with those kind of things is I don't eat that much.
Well, I ate, went back and got a couple more desserts. So when we got home, yes, sir, you hungry? Good God, no, about 8:30, 8:45. I got my crackers in the glass and poured me some milk on it, and that's what I ate.
Going way back in time. Well, we had a nice dinner at Mom's house.
Good,
On the patio.
good.
Mom and Dad are doing well.
Yeah, they seem to be getting around. It's
Mom's
just
doing
amazing.
better. She's rejuvenated again.
Good. I don't know if you knew Dean Shields.
Yeah, oh yeah, I do well. I know he got it.
I didn't know if you were getting stuff stripped up so Patty don't have a mess.
It does me.
But I wasn't the only one.
Except,
I mean, we were working.
Comes on if it's 2 a.m. in the morning.
What was being worked on, I think got done. The final stages were being done by a guy. And I think it got done.
That yard sale thing I brought up down there, what you call it?
Soon, everybody's coming to Carbondale. I think it's a little.
I don't want to blindside you with that question.
Come and see me when I can get the ordinance out for you. Well, yeah, but I want to come and sit. I want you to come and sit down with me, we'll get it out and read it, and I think we can, because I don't think it fits any definition other than
That is disgraceful. Last year, and I don't know if I saved the clipping, he had it advertised in the sun, in the paper, in the yard sale.
Well, his defense already is gonna be, Walmart does it. They do it out at Roping.
have merchandise outside. Well,
I think it's a valid,
maybe. I mean, we have changed a lot of the ways that we display merchandise from what we
by
used
our
to.
ordinance right now, they couldn't do that. Neither one.
I think that's by
Maybe we need an ordinance for Walnut Street.
But now there's this difference. Walmart has a store, and Rural King has a store. And they open merchandise sale.
Can't go in it because
Just say you can't go in his store, can you?
No,
Sunday week, Walmart 24.
You know.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will.
I'm just, I don't think that's what they would
Every
argue.
time I go by there.
That's what he would argue. But that's ugly. I mean, that's uglier than the depot is to me.
Oh, good. So that's
Makes you look like, well,
I think so.
the whole Walnut Street thing used to be.
But
They used to do it.
You have a few minutes.
They used to have the people come in there.
We're on Gardside Street, not Gardside, 16th Street, 16th and Gardside. And look in the backyard, you remember, the house with all
You know,
the
like when those guys would come in.
yard ornaments in the front.
With that gas station, where it's closed down now, and you have it out there along
Correct,
the side.
correct. Next door neighbor came on my house the other day, and I went over, looked at it. Yeah,
Which is different.
he's got a tractor back there. Tractor looks like he's got, God knows how many long.
I'll make it a
Ronnie
point.
Milton, I think. He's a artillery replacement, I think. Used to be.
You know,
But
I often wondered if that thing was, I mean, I don't guess so.
well, I told Eric that nothing's happened. The guy, next door neighbor's like, "Man, we started to look at that." He said,
Across the street.
no, directly south. His name is Paul Williams.
So he's not upset about the stuff in the front yard.
No, exactly. Well, yeah, I know. Well, it does, yeah, there's probably, I don't know how you could regulate taste.
When you got 4 or 5 riding lawnmowers in the yard,
Oh, at least, yeah. Paul said he had 12 at one time.
and I see it every Sunday morning going to church.
It's, and my daughter has her kids. My daughter has her kids that said, I know from experience, give him a nice neighbor. If somebody will go by and say, you need to clean this up, you'll probably do it.
I don't think, I think he's got a good chair tonight.
I don't know what it is. Right by, look at it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I guess is there somebody? Is there somebody?
Yeah, but my daughter says don't even talk to her. She's pretty sure.
Good idea.
Well, I will stop by.
Jack, back when I was smoking all the time.
I didn't want to talk to him, but I guess I could. Somebody, what's all the,
Put him on the table, light him, you can get up and
Well,
I know the problem.
he'd give me a
I don't know if it's maybe concern.
Oh, Jack.
When she was here last time, said he would look into that street, have you, that street, that Susan Okay.
Should be pretty quick.
Already.
Well, they have a sign out there that she has a sign on the edge of her property that says, look for some kind of, I don't remember what it says.
She fell in a mold and it's broken ankle or something, so she can't be there behind.
Wonderful.
But I assured her, I assured her that you or I would call her after I found out.
What we do is right, according to Tim and Darren, is right. They go right up to our line.
I said, I think it's the trucks going in and out that are speeding and not doing the stop sign.
I did look into that, but that's 2 minutes. That one street isn't even ours. And
Yes, we did.
I don't know how you, I guess you could set a police car out.
Flew in there.
I guess you
So
could.
think about that one.
Okay.
And then let me know before you leave and then I'll call you to whatever you tell me.
Well, I'll leave for where?
Say I am home.
Got your orders.
Before I'm out of here in 12 years, I think we get a clock up there that works.
Probably not.
In 12 years, there has never been a clock up there that worked for more than a month, is it?
Well, that's true. I thought you never said work, 'cause I have seen it work periodic on and off, but never 2 weeks, not 2 meetings.
Good job. Pretty good.
2 meetings in a row, that's true.
No, it's never too many.
Well, we had, I think, a motion out of committee. We got 23 more after we'll formalize it.
I don't see what it was.
23, at 23.
I mean,
23.
Like he's counting, huh?
Yeah.
I got less than
I
that,
don't
but then
mind
we'll
calls.
be done.
The station pays for my cell phone.
I mean, this is next year. I'm not taking any live pictures here that I know of. Thelma hasn't told me I am.
No, his wife is in the hospital.
That's real smart.
She's got salmonella.
Oh, no.
Kind of thinks she likes the idea.
Salmonella.
Always have it at the next committee meeting.
Yeah.
What do you think? Jim?
City and then
Some sort of an executive committee. Shouldn't be talked about till they're brought here.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Joyce, you ready?
If you have 3 people, it's isn't fair for 3 people to control.
The city attorney down here, he's talking.
You don't want to be like that. Well, the blip would have gone. Maybe, maybe not.
All right, it is 7 p.m. here on Tuesday, May the 10th, and we'll go ahead and call this city council meeting to order. And as is our tradition, we have a pastor here. Pastor Fry is from the Church of the Nazarene. We would ask that you all rise, and he will lead us in an invocation.
Thank you, Lord, for this night. I ask, Lord, to do each one that has business to bring this evening, whether it's through a committee meeting or through public comment, in the discussion, and the reports, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Fry. Clerk Cottonero, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Hughes. Here. Alderman Costa. Absent. Alderman Brown is excused. Alderman Voss.
Here.
Alderman Combe.
Here.
Alderman Pearson.
Here.
Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Urbis.
Here.
Alderman Campos. Here. Alderman Ridings.
Here. Thank you all for your attendance. Thank you for those in the audience here this evening as well. The first item on the agenda is a presentation of a proclamation, and we have a few members here this evening that are with us from the Murfreesboro Black Alumni Group. And many years ago, I think 30 or 40 years ago, there was a proclamation made honoring Mr. Carl Lee, who was a longtime educator in the city of Murfreesboro, and as part of their upcoming events on May the 28th at the Elks Lodge, they're going to be having a event stepping into summer soiree, and it's going to be from 7 until midnight, and it's going to be helping to raise money for this group, which hands out scholarships to students in the Murfreesboro area. And so at this time, I would like to ask the members that are here from the Murfreesboro Black Alumni to come to the front of the council chamber. I know we have Deb Schaefer, Joyce Stevenson, and Diana Smith, and we may have Angela Jackson as well in chorus. And I will read this proclamation into the record and then present it to them. Whereas the city of Murfreesboro wishes to remember those members of the community that have given back to the city of Murfreesboro and commemorate anniversaries of an important and relevant nature, and whereas the late Carl Lee spent nearly 40 years as an educator, the majority of those years teaching at the Douglas School in Murfreesboro, and whereas Mr. Lee became one of the first African Americans to graduate from Southern Illinois Normal University in Carbondale in 1928 and organized the first Negro Society at SINU at Carbondale, which later became the Jackson County chapter of the NAACP, and went on to graduate with his doctorate degree in law from the University of Illinois in 1952.
And whereas Carl Lee returned to his hometown of Murfreesboro and became the principal of the Douglas School until his retirement in 1965 at the age of 66, and was honored on May 29, 1976 by former Mayor Michael Bowers with an official day. And whereas the Murfreesboro Black Alumni Society is holding an event on May the 28th, 2016 to raise funds to further the higher education opportunities for students in Murfreesboro, and where this event hopes to continue to honor the legacy of Dr. Carl Lee 40 years after the original proclamation. And whereas the city of Murfreesboro wishes to honor the lasting contributions of Carl Lee made to promoting racial integration, fostering educational opportunities, and building a brighter future for Murfreesboro. Now therefore, let it be known that I, Will Stevens, Mayor of the City of Murfreesboro, do proclaim Saturday, May 28, 2016 as Carl Lee Day throughout the great city of Murfreesboro.
You need to be in there too.
That's the camera. Or maybe we need a selfie stick.
Right, yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it greatly.
I'd like to thank Mayor Stevens for the proclamation. My name is Deborah Schaefer. I'm the current president of the Murfreesboro Black Alumni. Angela is our assistant treasurer. Diana is a board member, and Joyce is a board member. We have one big fundraiser this year, which was in April, that allowed us to do $500 scholarships that are going to be awarded to the students on May the 12th at the high school for their efforts. So that's what our organization trying to give back to our community and be a positive influence in the community. Yes. So our next event will be, as he said, May the 28th at the Elks Club, and all the proceeds will go also to the scholarship fund. So anybody interested, you see flyers all around town, just get to one of the members or just come on down that night.
Silent auction.
We're going to have a wonderful time.
A nice DJ from Soundport, so it'll be a nice date night. Yay!
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies. Bye-bye.
All right, now we will move to the items that we have on our regular standing agenda for this evening. First, we have consideration of council minutes from April the 12th, 2016, which are included in your packet, and I would entertain any amendments or questions concerning the minutes. If there are none, I would entertain Mr. Alderman Bratton.
On page 4, or page 3, bottom of it, we call together the Public Safety Committee meeting, and if you go to page 4, says Alderman Pearson has safety concerns, Alderman Urbis is worried about safety, Alderman Bratton has serious safety concerns, and Chief Hollow sees issues with enforcement and safety concerns. Concerning what, my question?
The side-by-side ATV,
Okay, I'm
golf
sorry.
carts.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Where are you, so you would approve the minutes as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have the consideration of accounts payable, accounts receivable, and payroll reports, which are also included in your packet.
I have no question.
You have no questions.
Sandra took care of it today.
On the wall. I'll put a star.
The big star, yeah.
Sandra took care of it.
I did the same. I went to see
saw-
Sandra.
I didn't have any questions.
I don't think I have any.
So I'm sure that you addressed them.
All right, I did have one question. I'm not going to let it go by that easy. The I'm just curious, not a huge expense, but on page 8 from Johnstone Supply, which I grew up right down the road from there, a huge cartridge and puller. Whose was that? Jim?
That's fuses for a panel we got down there and a port for the main outlet.
Okay,
The fuses are about that big and they're $15 a piece.
I see. I'm assuming there won't be any fuses in the new plant of that nature?
Not that small.
Okay.
Make a motion to pay the bill.
We have a motion to pay the bills. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we would take this opportunity to hear any comments from the public that are here this evening. The only thing that I've asked is that if you want to share something with the council or have a question, just stand, state your name, and if you can, try to keep it to 5 minutes if possible.
I'm Bill Fenton, and I'll keep this pretty short because I don't really know all the details, but I was heard that there was something going on with trying to add some kind of fee for the people that own rental property. And I'm trying to figure out what in the world that would be all about. I already paid taxes on the place. Why would I have to suffer by raising their rent in order to pay whatever fee this is? I don't own a lot of rental property, but my family has and does. And I'm not real sure if it's because these people that don't want to take care of their places, you're going to try to add some fee to the people that do take care of their places, and so you can get money to tear them down or whatever the reason is. But I don't think it should fall on the weight of our shoulders or our renters' shoulders because these people can't take care of, maintain their places. Fine them, and if they don't want to pay their bills, put them in jail, whatever it takes. But I don't think that Murphysboro is a place that's rising up too quickly anyway. I think there's potential, and I love the fact that we can come together as a community and save this place and try to do the things that we should do, like tearing down junk houses and stuff like that. But I don't think that the weight should fall on our shoulders because we are the people that take care of this town and improve our properties and maintain our property. I just rode down the road by just the road down by where the city building is, and there's like 4 houses about ready to fall down right there. I'm just like, but when you go by our places and you look at them, you can tell they're well maintained. We keep care of the grass. If our renters don't do what they're supposed to do, we talk to them and make sure that everything gets taken care of. So I don't know where this is in play with you guys, but I hope that you let us know because I would fight it to have to do something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton. Just in response, I would say that we are working through that process. I'm happy to share the details of where we're at in that process so that you can get a more full picture of what we're trying to accomplish. I know Alderman Voss has worked diligently, and this has sort of, in a sense, been brought to us. There's, of course, various perspectives. Some homeowners feel like some of the rental properties aren't well maintained, and they're probably right. That's not across the board. But I'd be happy to sit down with you, Bill, and share that with you at some point. We're not there yet in terms of having a finalized whatever it's going to be, but we are working in that, and I think that feedback from people that own rental property is very important so that we get whatever it is right, if we're going to get it at all. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Karen Hale, and you were talking about just the rental property. I mean, there's lots of property that's not rental property that needs attention, not just rental property. So, are you going to charge them a fee too?
Well, that is not the plan at the moment. It's the consideration that there is a difference between a rental versus a home-owned property, and there are similar things in place in West Frankfort. I know is one city that has adopted a measure that is similar to what we've kind of been looking at. So, in any case, again, I would just say that if, my email's mayor@murfreesboro.com. If you want to correspond with me that way, I'd be happy to share with you more details so that you can get a full picture of what's
Okay,
going
are
on.
you taking in consideration that if you don't live in the property, you don't get a homestead exemption, therefore you're paying higher taxes on that property anyway?
Well, this could be a very long conversation, because it is something that we've been working on for a while now, and there is some detail to it, and we want to be transparent and share that detail with you. I don't want to answer that question right now, because I don't know if I'd be able to give you the right answer or not.
Okay. Okay. Just as long as, I would really appreciate being told.
Sure.
That know what's going on, because I wouldn't have known unless you put it on Facebook, so. You put it on Facebook, and that's how I knew. So, I would like to know more about the meetings and stuff that's going on, I mean, just throughout the year.
Sure.
And I don't even know how you find that out, if it's posted or if it's, and I've lived in Murfreesboro my whole life, so.
I'm here, probably.
Huh?
Probably something,
It-
You have to,
Alderman Bratton?
It's real simple. Second Tuesday each month, 7 o'clock. Fourth Monday of each month at 5:30. Feel free to come, bring whoever you want, and I don't agree with everything, but we're in the process of going through a draft, eliminating, adding stuff, and we want to try to get it right the first time. And we're still not going to get it perfectly right, we know that, but at least we're going to try. We're not going to pull an Obamacare, pass something, and then find out what's in it. Okay?
I think that you guys are all paying for Murfreesboro. It's scary for us, because if that happens, then we've got two choices, either sell the place or raise the rent, and people ain't coming to Murfreesboro with a higher rent than we are in
Believe me, I know that. I've got rental property. I have had for 35 years, so.
Rolling out of here.
But you also have to consider, Bill, that you are probably in the lower population of people that take care of their rental property. I mean, the unfortunate news is you guys are doing what you're supposed to, as is Alderman Bratton, but there's a lot of them out there that are not. And the bad news is sometimes we do end up paying for what someone else is screwing up,
Why
for
wouldn't
us.
it, I mean, it's just a question, but why wouldn't it be, let's go get after these people?
Well, there is a process, and he will sit down with you and explain that to you. There is, ordinances and such that some of that can happen, but correct me if I'm wrong, with us being able to inspect properties and such, there has to be some kind of written code, correct?
Yeah, well, the big part about driving this is the fact that we have, I think, about 1,600 rental properties in Murfreesboro now, and that number has grown, and essentially our staffing levels make it very difficult to follow up on all those things that you talk about, that you see out there. So we have to take a look at, okay, well, if we're going to have somebody dedicated to making sure that just basic livability standards are in place, we've got to find that somewhere. And so that's a part of it. And a part of it, again, is I think we do a good job, not the best job, of hearing from citizens. And we've had several homeowners come before this board and say, I have a rental on both sides of me, I'm trying to sell my home, I can't sell it because these places are, falling down. And we don't have any right as a city currently to go in ever and say, okay, what's going on in here? And you got to be real careful about that, because there's a balance to what's right, and we hope to strike that balance. So just believe me when I say that we will be in communication so that.
There are a lot of pieces of property that are owned by the person that's like that.
Sure.
I have that right next door to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, very, very glad that you're here and that you're expressing your opinion, and that encourage you to come to the next Monday meeting. We want to be transparent about it, and you hear fees that are outstanding and things, and we're hoping that if something gets passed, that it's not going to be onerous, it's not going to be anything that is over the top. But the mayor's right. There has to be some way in place that we can make certain that that the property that's being rented to someone's mom or someone's daughter is a safe place to live. And the way it is right now, it's just nearly impossible for us to assess that. So it'll be an open book, and we'll share it all, and we'll have healthy discussions about it. And the folks that have been elected to represent the citizens will ultimately weigh in on it. So it's going to be a good process. It's been pretty entertaining so far, and we absolutely welcome you to weigh in.
And you're voting next Monday?
No.
But we'll have things to share, and you should 2 weeks from
On the
in
23rd
a couple of
at
weeks
5:30.
have a better understanding of the process and what we hope to accomplish. So
Monday the 23rd at 5:30.
Sorry?
Monday the 23rd at 5:30 PM.
Anyone else want to share anything with the council under public comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Cam Donahue. I represent One Source General Contracting. I just was curious if there was any movement with the board to pay a past due bill to One Source General Contracting.
I had planned on addressing that with the council this evening under the mayor's report, and I've been in communication with Jim Morgan concerning it because it is outstanding, and there's, as I believe Jim communicated, there's discussions at the county board level that are slow, but they are moving, as is a lot of times things with government, because of these properties that are in the county trustees' hands. And so I don't have anything new to report right now, but I do plan on having that as a topic for discussion this evening before the end of the meeting.
Well, as long as we continue to talk about it, it's something that hopefully that we can work out between all of us.
Sure.
Because I want to do what's right for everybody, what's right for Murfreesboro, and what's right for my company.
Correct.
And I think that we could come to some type of agreement, and as long as we get the lines of communication open.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Thank you for that. We'll move into our regular committee and commission reports, and the first one that we have up is public improvement, and I believe we have a item for action there. It's on the back side, and it's a recommendation to council to approve staying any pursuit of demolition permits concerning the old depot. The rest of it, I think we can hold till committees next Monday and have that discussion at the committee level to further our thoughts and plans there.
You need a motion on that?
I would like one.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe that is the only item for action.
There's a letter that's to be drafted with that, the way this reads.
Right, I felt like we could hold that for committees, that further discussion, because I think the council needs to have full discussion at committee level about what exactly do we want that to look like.
Okay.
If we want to have that discussion now,
The only thing we voted on then was the stay.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I thought we pretty well,
Yeah,
I thought we pretty well,
At the committee meeting, Danny, we need to set the timetable.
that's
How long
fine,
we're
that's
giving.
fine,
Yeah.
that's fine.
It'd be better off
Yeah,
to do that at a
I
committee
think so,
meeting.
and then that way, if we want any other input in by that time, we'll have time to think about it. I agree 100%.
okay,
Are these two not on
yeah,
they're not on our sheet here?
We do have two more items here. I don't see them on this sheet, but they are on the agenda. We have a recommendation to full council to approve the agreement with Emmanuel Lutheran School to connect to the city fiber network.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Did we vote on that? You vote?
I didn't have anything in my minutes about that. I thought maybe this was just
Sandra?
something that came up later.
I'm sorry?
Blake had asked for the approval of the agreement to be placed on the agenda, and then Alderman McComb asked for the next item.
Okay, because I knew I didn't have it in the minutes.
Okay. Attorney Heller, what kind of ground are we on there?
It's an agenda item. You have the authority to act on it.
Okay. Fair enough. Up next, we have discussion and approval of surplus properties to be sold. Alderman McComb.
Okay, on that, I have just the paperwork to finish the deal with Mark on the property down there east of the Holden area. And we ran that without costing us anything. We got some paper, he's having some paperwork draw up, and when he gets his done, Sandra can finish ours, and we'll have that swap made without any of our lots being traded. Okay, the other part of that, Mrs. Kennedy was wanting $21,500 for the lot across from the
Public Works.
He was down and said with the city, she'd take $15,000 for that, all that ground over there. So,
Is that on the agenda to vote on, or?
well, it's with the surplus property that we was
Okay.
gonna trade for. So,
I'd make-
I mean, we don't have, if we don't have to vote on it tonight, Danny. Everybody want me to wait to get done with one before we started on the other? Well, being as I was meeting with Mark, I was working on both at the same
I
time.
understand.
And that's what we were. And on the surplus property, we're gonna have to hold on to it for a little while because we're trying to swap for another piece of ground that we talked about on the
Okay,
committee
that's fine.
meeting.
Yeah,
But
that's
we're
fine.
trying to get a lot, and so we don't want to list any of that yet till we have somebody go through and see what lots they want to trade with us.
So do we want to just approve the swap of the properties for the holding area and then hold the 15,000?
We can do that. I just want to get everybody out on what.
Oh, I have, Gary, has that property been appraised there by the Public Works building? Do you have any idea? I mean, I'm not objecting to the
I
price.
know for a fact, Bill, when they cleaned that property, she spent $17,000. And if she had that in the property before she ever got started.
Yeah.
Besides what they had in the property, and she'd like to see the city have it. She has dropped it over $6,000. And it's something for you to kick around in your head, or if we want somebody to appraise it.
No, we don't.
I don't think we need to do that.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, because.
We need the property.
And I think it's a fair price.
Yeah, it sounds fair.
She's let us use it for
Well, that
umpteen years.
That even goes, between where the guys park the big yellow truck and the child care center. That space in between there goes with that lot too.
Attorney Heller?
Now, Gary, are you talking now about the swap of properties?
No, we're not swapping any property
Okay.
for that down there. That's all a paper deal, Ed. I offered
Are you donating it to us?
13 lots for that ground. You don't want the lots, we're trading the value without any cash changing hands or anything, and ended up for the property without putting any money in it. We're keeping the lot.
So,
What are we trading?
I'm confused.
Yeah, we're trading something. We're trading something.
Sound like we're getting something for nothing.
Sounds like we're getting something for free,
We're
yes.
getting something for free.
Okay.
We're not trading, we're not putting any money in it. That's where I had it marked off with that paper that time. That's 200 and some odd foot.
Okay.
uh, all down the east side of the holding area. And we're getting it free.
Here's our difficulty.
Huh?
Here's our difficulty, all right? If we're talking about a swap.
Well,
Okay, follow me through here. Okay, I realize we're not talking about a swap, but I want to put this out here so everybody knows this.
Yeah.
You know, that if we're gonna do any kind of a swap of property,
it has to be run.
it has to go to a public hearing before we can do that. So we would have to have a vote and have a 3/4 vote to have a public hearing, then we'd have to have a public hearing, which we could do before a meeting, and then we do that. We're not talking about a swap tonight.
No.
We're just talking
That
about.
swap we're talking about is if we get we want to hold on to what we got to try to get another piece of property. But we got to work out with something them before we can come back and put it to you and the council what we're trying to do.
So here's where I would say we're at tonight. And I may not have this exactly right, but from what I'm understanding what we're doing, that swap question will have to go to a public hearing. So whenever we get that lined out,
Yeah,
we'll have to do that a public hearing.
we had to do that before when we traded.
In terms of tonight approving an arrangement where we're gonna be receiving that property down there in the holding area, we don't have that agenda to receive property. We have an agenda item to dispose of surplus property, discussion or approval of surplus properties. And that's not disposing of surplus properties, that's acquiring a property that we need, which is unfortunately not what we have as an agenda item, so I don't think we can legally do that tonight.
Well, it's been months for me to get this deal worked out. It ain't gonna be bad to put it on the committee.
I'm not saying we have to go through a committee,
Yeah.
we just can't do it here without it being on the agenda.
So we can go through the next committee and then have it on the agenda next
We'll
month.
need to do that at the next city council meeting.
I mean, the deal's there, it's done, what I've been working on. And then I switched over trying to work on, I just want everybody to know, we're not trying to pull the wool over nobody's eyes, you know.
So at our attorney's advice, we will hold that agenda item until committee so we can work it through the proper processes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that takes us to the Budget and Finance Committee, and we have one item for action there. It is a recommendation to council to approve accounts payable number 630 through April the 25th, 2016.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to Building and Grounds, and I look to our attorney. We don't have an item for action, but there was discussion there about this Ameren issue. Is there any update there?
The only update is the discussion is still going on. Richard has they sent us a document about to be used to request permission when we want to put something on the poles. The document they sent us to start with is essentially the same document that they use when the coal mines has poles and they have to put up new poles, take down poles, and it's a very draconian document. We would never be able to satisfy the requirements under that procedure to hang up, one of our banners up. Richard is talking to a new guy now, and they're still discussing it, so we're expecting to get a different agreement presented to us here pretty shortly. They're a lot slower than we are. Our governing body moves a lot quicker than Ameren's governing body.
Well, score one for us.
We're
Still
not
working on
slow,
Yeah.
we move.
Amen. All right, that is the update there. Under Building and Grounds, I want to take just a moment. I know that we have here in attendance with us Mr. Joe Fry from the Park District, and we recently entered into an agreement to do some work on the building, the MYRC building. And Joe, do you have something you want to share with us on that? I know we've done some work, or some work's getting ready to be done, and I had a conversation with you earlier concerning that.
Sure. I know that the city council had pursued doing some roof repair to the MYRC building. Most of that would have been happening over the back loading dock area, which is not an area that the Park District recently entered into a lease agreement with you with. A portion of it was to repair the section that we have leased from you over the main part of the building. And it was brought to our attention that the minutes or somewhere along the lines for one of the meetings was that was for the city then to pursue for reimbursement for half of that from the Park District. And the Park District was under the impression that we had brought to the city council when we originally talked about the lease process of the concerns over the roof leaking. And our understanding was that we thought the city council was also in agreement that fixing the roof over the part of that was a prior contingent to the lease, and that the roof repair just took longer than the lease process, and they kind of flip-flopped where they should have fallen. So we didn't necessarily, we were concerned about where exactly we stood with the city council on that.
Okay. Well, I think that, we haven't seen that work completed yet. We haven't got a invoice at City Hall for that work yet. When we do receive that invoice, I'm sure that is a conversation we can have at committee level about the setup of that lease and the timing of it concerning that specific bill.
Sure, absolutely. One other concern that the park board had that they wanted me to be sure that I voiced was to make sure that we have an open line of communication regarding repairs to the building. If there's a potential for us to incur a cost, we would like to know about it in advance of it being approved at the city council level, so that we can plan accordingly for such a thing. We know that we plan to do the exact same thing. If we have anything that falls under that right amount of money or anything like that, we would of course approach the city council and let them know about it before we would move forward with anything happening.
Any thoughts, questions, considerations from the council?
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds
I mean,
reasonable
the roof
to me.
was sort of an emergency
Yeah,
situation.
it's- that roof came up to the point where something had to be done about it.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. I wanted to make sure we gave you that opportunity.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
All right, that takes us to community relations, and we do not have any items for action under community relations at this time. Any questions or discussion on any of those items? That takes us to public safety, and we have one item for action here. Recommendation to council to approve the payment of $380 to Kimberly Seifert and close the case discussed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to Public Works, and we have a recommendation to the council to approve the change order requests in the amount of $84,603.45 for the wastewater treatment plant.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We also have a recommendation to City Council to approve the grease trap routine maintenance and inspection, I guess you'd call that amendment to the city ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Before we move on from there, Mayor. Bill-
Alderman Hughes.
I'm sorry. Bob Linsky, who is the foreman, there's notes here, I don't think there's anything we were going to do in voting on that, but I just.
Bob
wondered
Lindsay,
if-
the foreman of,
Habitat.
oh,
I wondered if you looked at that sidewalk and if
I did,
anything's been brought up.
to do it correctly, we're gonna have to replace around 175 feet of sidewalk.
Okay.
To take it from 20th Street to the end of the sidewalk to the east. We're looking at approximately $2,000 for the cost of the concrete, the materials that we would use, not including the labor.
Is that, but we do that in-house?
Yes.
If we do it?
But Darren, did that take in, that took in about 2 lots that were not theirs, is that correct, or
Yes.
3?
Yeah, there
So-
was 2
so-
lots that were not, that didn't belong to the Habitat. There's no way to do it in front of just the Habitat house without doing the other 2 places.
It would make their problem worse.
Yes.
Okay.
So probably what we need to do is, if they decide to do that, if Habitat decides to, they want their part done, we're gonna have to get an agreement with the other landowners to pay their part, or unless Habitat wants to pay it off. And I doubt
I
that they
think he
do.
was asking for us to do it.
Yeah.
I have a
I think he was too.
question, Darren, and
Free.
I'll offer this, and then you can tell me why it's a bad idea, because I'm not a construction background person, but I would pass there. Would it be possible to just do that section and then set in the concrete a sort of a grate or a drain, and then set as I've often seen houses that have the guttering go into the ground and then run a pipe all the way out to the street, to set a grate on either side and then run a drainage out to the street through the curb?
We could possibly do that, but we would probably incur more of an expense to dig the road up to run the pipes to the storm drain. Because right now, the road is about 5 inches higher than the concrete that's there, is the main issue. So
Okay.
we brought their sidewalk up, the other 2 are gonna be so low, that they're gonna hold water, so that, basically, they're gonna complain.
Okay.
So then in order to go in and do that, the water has to go somewhere, which we would have to take it underground to the west of the storm drain on the corner of 20th and
Hamilton.
Hamilton. If not, the water wouldn't flow uphill, so.
Right.
It would probably be more fair to try to do that than just do the whole side.
Okay.
We really need to put that on the next committee
I think
meeting.
it needs to go on there. I mean, they're gonna want an answer one way or another.
I see Sandra making a note. So we will take that to the committee meeting. And thank you for bringing that up, Barb. It's certainly needed discussion. All right, that takes us to personnel. We don't have any items for action there either. And that'll take me to the mayor's report. Alderman Bratton.
Before we go to that, I'd like to ask a question.
Certainly.
I know about 4 years ago, we had an alderman that physically could not attend the meeting. Now we seem to have an alderman that is unable to make it, but not because he's incarcerated. Are the same rules applied to both as far as pay and as far as staying on the council?
Yeah, the state statute says that a elected official's salary cannot be adjusted inside a term, and the only thing that disqualifies you from office is conviction of a felony or if you owe money to the city. So there is, very limited things from which you can disqualify someone from.
So I could basically, Mr. Alderman Pearson, I could just basically quit coming our last year as alderman and get paid every month.
You certainly could.
We don't recommend that.
It's,
give them a hard time.
I didn't say I was going to, Barbie. Just hold on to your toothbrush.
We can throw Bill under the bus.
Yeah, I'd like it in the bit. No, I won't come
We brought it up the last time.
Okay, that's
so- I'm just getting you back.
But if they do owe the city money, then that's the reason?
it is.
Okay, thank you.
I have
I'm sorry
another
to
question. Do we have
interrupt.
He's living in his home?
Well, I spoke with Alderman Brown, who I know lives close,
Yeah.
and he says that he sees Alderman Costa coming and going, mostly in the evening. I know that there's no water hooked up to that residence at this time. So certainly there is his lack of attendance raises a lot of questions. But again, there's a very little recourse under
My
state.
question is he living within his ward, and we don't know that?
Well, that's another good question. And Attorney Heller, I don't know what
If I move out of my ward, I'm off of here, and I don't get my $250, so I work
I don't
so
know, we
hard.
had one that did for a couple of years.
That will get into the definition of living, where you live.
And a legal address.
And your legal address, and we would have to know quite a bit of more facts about his comings and goings to determine that he doesn't still maintain that as his residence.
Try.
It doesn't. You know, that would probably be a hard one.
Well, I'm
Because
just
the
going
day we
by-
started, the day we brought that action is the day we'd see him every day at that house. And
Well,
he's
yeah,
coming and
exactly.
going from that house. He doesn't have to sleep there in order to be living there.
Okay.
I just wish that he would show up because he can be an access.
Yes, I agree with you.
Asset
It's
to this
unfair to
council.
the committees that listen to the table to not have his vote, whether it's yay or nay. I mean, I think that he was elected by constituents and he needs to, for those constituents, at least voice his vote.
Well, it would seem that common sense would tell you that if you get elected, that you ought to show up and do some work. But the world isn't common sense. All right, that takes us to the mayor's report, and Carrie Menace, the executive director of Greater Egypt Regional Planning and Development Commission, is going to be in town on Thursday, May 19th, touring the city. I believe, Sandra, he had another lady that was going to be with him, but she is not going to be able to attend now. If I'm going to try to meet with him on that day, and if any of the aldermen would like to, help, because he's still coming, isn't he?
No.
He is not either. Okay, excuse me, I was confused. So, strike that, Carrie Menace is not coming to Murfreesboro, and never mind.
Oh, no, we ain't gonna get nothing.
Okay, all right.
Which is what I handed out.
It ain't pretty, folks. Also, I want to mention that a lot of things are beginning to happen. The farmers market started last Saturday. We had 6 vendors next to City Hall from 8 to noon, and we have 8 registered for next week, so I hope that that continues to show some growth. The block parties at Bruce Brothers, the first Friday of every month. Also, Cruise Night, I know, has seen great success the first 2 months as well, and I encourage people to attend that. Relay for Life will be Friday, June the 3rd at Riverside Park at 6 p.m., and I want to commend Sandra Ripley and the people that work with her, Leslie McComb, and a number of others, Alderman McComb. I attended a trivia night for Relay for Life recently. It was well attended. The amount of hours they put in to that good cause is, it's just really impressive, and I appreciate everything they do. The final item, and it's not listed on the mayor's report, but I want to add it for discussion here this evening, is just what Mr. Donahue from One Source Contracting brought up, and that's that there is still, of course, the issue with the retaining wall on Lucier Street from about a year ago. That bill is still outstanding. Of course, we know that we considered that at the council, and at our attorney's advice, it was said that we could not legally pay that bill. There is discussion at the county board level right now to essentially institute a fund that would be made up of monies collected, a portion of from what they used to call the scavenger sale or the tax sale, and that would be put aside specifically for maintenance of the properties that are held by the county trustee. That process is slow. I've been in discussion with Jim Morgan and One Source Contracting now for many months, trying to get them some satisfaction, because they did the work, and I'll be the first one to admit that it was my mistake. I made a mistake, and they but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be.
I was going to say, they did this in good faith anyway.
They did. And so I would just submit, and I would like to get our attorney's thoughts on it, and if this may be something that'll have to be held to committees. I don't know if it would be possible, but I would be willing, if the council would consider paying that bill, and I don't do this with a halo over my head at all, because I'm the one who caused this problem. I would be willing to essentially work without a salary until that bill would be washed out on terms of the books. It's about $11,000. Now, I don't know if we can do that or not, Ed.
No.
Okay.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
You could
Your
take a
salary is
and
your
pay it.
salary. You can't forego your salary for a situation like that. It's still an illegal payment for the city to make that payment because it's an improvement of private property as a result of a property condition that is between the two property owners, one of which is a private citizen, the other is a Jackson County trustee, neither of which is us. Because we have no ownership interest in the higher elevation land, assuming that that land has a condition that could have resulted in an action compelling that landowner to pay to fix that problem, and that's never been determined. That's still not us. We're not the Jackson County trustee. That's the problem. The county should be paying that bill. If that land is the cause of the problem that the wall was built to remedy, it's the county's created problem. And that's where that has to happen. And it's still not legal for us to, even if you forego your salary in order to make up that money, it still doesn't give us the authority to pay that money over. And I would say to all of you that would be a very bad precedent to set, because everybody makes mistakes. When you are government and you are a government official and you make a mistake, if your government on who you're acting is responsible for that problem, then that government has to deal with it. But it's the underlying problem. But you can't solve that by having an individual say, well, I'll pony up that money. It's still not a legal payment by the city of Murfreesboro because it's not our property and it's not our tort. So, I mean, while that's a generous idea, I think that's still wrong, and I think that would set a bad precedent of having people at that table start reaching in their pockets to pay the cost of the mistake they made when they were carrying out their official duties for which you have immunity for that kind of thing. So you gotta be careful with that issue. That's, you have immunity for that kind of mistake. That doesn't solve this problem at this moment where it stands, and the real solution to that is, I don't know the detail of what you're talking there, but that is something that's very much needed at the county level, because the county has all kinds of decrepit properties in its title folder now from these tax sales, and this is not the only time all year that happens. So the fact that they're addressing that with the idea of establishing a fund to routinely take care of those problems, the landowner would have had a place to go. And that's the right place for that to go, and the county will have a procedure for handling that. That's heading for the right solution. You opening up your pocketbook is the wrong solution. Anybody else on that council should not ever do anything like that.
Well, I appreciate our attorney's advice. I don't necessarily like your advice all the time. But Alderman Urbis.
What about under errors of omission insurance? Is that something?
I think that that's been submitted to our insurance carriers, hasn't it? And they've made the decision on that, and I think they denied that, didn't they?
Yeah, which was a whole other conversation. I asked them if they could point out a situation where a mistake or an error of whatever by an elected official would be covered by their insurance, and they couldn't give me one. So I said, well, I don't think that's very good insurance.
Like the Greater Egyptian not showing up.
Yeah.
They show up for their pay every year, though.
Well-
Errors and
And why are
omissions
we paying
insurance
for that?
doesn't very often apply.
It's essentially like the-
Primarily for theft.
It's the same as the undercoat on the car they sell you, you know. I mean, it's a joke. Our insurance agent is selling us something that they're not providing. And, you know, I would like us to seriously consider reviewing what kind of coverage we have, because that's extremely poor. Mr. Donahue, I could just tell you that I'm going to continue to work on this and to figure out a way to get from point A to point B, because it did work. You ought to be paid for that work. My opinion is that as an agent of the city, I directed that work. There's a lot of legal hangups here, and it's not worth much, but I once again want to just express to you how frustrated I am with the situation, and I know I can't be more frustrated than you are.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your help, and any cooperation I can get would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much. Any further questions or discussion under the mayor's report?
Have you had discussions with the county about?
I have. The process there is slow because the various taxing bodies that all derive revenue from those sales have to be contacted, and you know, getting those things on agendas, getting them considered, it takes a while. And it's not the only issue, and I think in some senses they don't really want to deal with it either, but I continue to push at that venue. All right, that will take me to council member requests, and I will start with Alderman Hughes. Alderman Voss.
Nothing tonight.
Alderman McComb.
Yeah, we advertising, for the cleanup days now, Sandra, we got any flyers out or anything?
There are flyers made. I put it on our sign. I've notified the Murfreesboro Times.
Well, the township is gonna go their part again this year. We won't get it
Good.
till after the cleanup days are over because of the way their meetings fall and stuff. But I went by today and they are giving us the money.
Good.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Alderman McComb. Alderman Pearson?
No.
Alderman Bratton?
Were you going to discuss that blacktop thing, or are you just going to have Darren do that on the side?
I was going to hold that for committees.
Okay, that's
On
fine.
Sandra Court.
Yes, I do have two things.
Okay.
One with, Billy, if you could pass this on. 3 or 4 months ago, we were going through the billing and stuff on the sewer plant, and Harold said he was going to check into the markup rate on that and see if he couldn't do some good, and maybe I missed that meeting. I don't think
I
so,
heard
but
him discussing it, 'cause I was here and he wasn't.
Yeah.
So I passed it on, and
anyway, I haven't heard anything back on that. If
he
we
should
could,
be back tomorrow.
if we could have some, yeah, I know that he's on his annual golf
He's
thing.
probably sitting at home right now.
No, but, yeah, probably so. But if we could have something for committee meeting, I would really appreciate that.
I'll do that.
And the other question I had that, I think Spin was supposed to have had their silent auction and raffle for the motorcycle tickets.
Yes,
Bill, it should-
I went to it, the turnout was really poor. I'd say they probably had 50 people there, and we happened to get a couple of the auctions. I went out to pay them, and he said if they were lucky, they would raise a couple $1,000.
Did
And,
they raffle the motorcycle off, or did they sell
No,
the
they did
tickets?
not sell enough chances on the motorcycle to raffle it, and they said they would go until June 1st to try to sell them up. But they were way short on that.
I was
As
just
a matter of fact, he mentioned to me that he may possibly have to close the place up. Lack of money. It's the people on on Industrial Park Drive,
In the
supporting
old
people in
big
need, I think's the name.
Yeah.
He's needing a lift station there for the sewer thing. He has to pay for it, and they don't have any money. They're really, he told me they only take in $2,000 a month, so it's gonna be real difficult for them to ever get that done. But,
Anything further, Alderman Bratton?
No, that'd be all. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Urbis?
Nothing.
Alderman Campos?
Nothing besides.
Alderman Ridings?
Good.
All right. We'll go to department head request, Attorney Heller, Ms. Ripley. All right. Bill Center, Chief Hollow.
Good job, Brian, good job.
My apologies.
Good one.
Yeah. Chief Swafford.
The fire department's going to be starting a pre-planned survey program, hopefully in the downtown business area where we can go into the buildings and get layouts of the buildings, layouts of facilities. Just hopefully if we do have something, we'll be a little better prepared. And so we're going to be starting that project this week. Hopefully get cooperation.
Well, I appreciate that greatly. I think it's something that's needed, and I also just would remind everybody that we did get a very good insurance rating for about 2-3 weeks ago. And so if you're a homeowner, you may want to call your insurance agent and tell them that our fire department is better rated now than it's been in many years, and that can influence your homeowner's insurance rate.
Definitely will.
In a positive
Yes.
fashion.
Make a phone call.
Yeah.
They went, if they asked what the number is, it went down to 4.
Yeah.
It's ISO?
Right.
ISO is the terminology.
Brian Manwaring?
Nothing.
Ron Manwaring?
Nothing.
Darren Mills?
Nothing.
Tim Lee? Jim Stewart? Anybody I'm forgetting? I don't think so. Eric Kennedy?
Still 9 o'clock.
All right. All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Again. You noticed the new color on the wall and the new I didn't build it. All right, Bill, it looks like a more, you want a color? I'll give you your phone number.
I don't want to tell him that.
We were wondering if the area just to the rest of the
I'm not sure if we're going to ask Paul to do that. I may tell you we're going to ask Paul to do that.
I'll do it. I'll
Okay,
do
all
that.
right. That'll be good.
Builder come
I would like to,
I know.
the other thing that we have some concerns about is
Maybe she knows that